Hey guys, it's Alex, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you I guess a long-term review of my daily driver 2017 Cadillac Escalade. I've gotten a couple of messages from you guys saying, hey, can you give me an update on anything that you've experienced, pros and cons of owning a good size luxury SUV, because a lot of people are wondering, you know, should I buy a truck to, daily and then maybe tow my car to the track? Or should I get something like a big SUV? And I've always told a lot of the Ford guys out there, look, I'm a Ford guy. The best thing Chevy makes is a full-size V8 SUV. And in my opinion, nobody else does a better job. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of give you a go around, pros and cons, things I've experienced, positive and negative, owning a 2017 Cadillac Escalade has gone over 100,000 miles. So that is interesting that a lot of people, want to know the long-term reliability of these vehicles. So I'll give you a general overview of how everything's going. So one of the bigger concerns in Florida is the paint. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, maybe you don't understand the Florida sun. The Florida sun is nothing to be joked with. It is extremely strong, and you have to be on top of the maintenance of the vehicle, meaning literally washing the truck pretty often. Now, as you can see, it has some speckles here and there because some landscaper decided to weed whack right in front of the truck. But generally, the paint is pretty damn good on this truck. Now, these Chevy trucks or GM vehicles have like an issue with the hood and the top where the paint seems to kind of, I don't know, like delaminate. It's kind of weird. So this truck is experiencing that, but you can't even tell from, a couple feet away. So I'm going to give you obviously the pros of that, where Cadillac, for whatever reason, seems to have a pretty darn good paint, specifically on their SUVs and their black paint, because it doesn't really show many swirls. I run it through the slapper. I do not hand wash this thing. What my maintenance schedule is maybe once a week a hand wash, but nothing too crazy, and maybe once a month or once every 2 months like a deep clean. I'm saying like run it through the slapper or then go through the whole thing with a fine-tooth comb. And you got to stay on top of it. If not, you're gonna get all these, believe it or not, these things shed some kind of sap, and if it falls on the hood, you just let it sit there, it ruins your paint forever. So especially on a black vehicle, one of the smart things to do is to be on top of the paint. Tires. So the only things I've replaced on this vehicle has been oil changes and tires. Still has the brakes from when I bought it with 80,000 miles, and the tires that came with it were some Pirelli Scorpion Verde all seasons, okay, size 285 45 22. That's exactly what I put back in it, because I got like 20 to 30,000 miles and it barely had any wear. The issue was that one of the belts shifted. So apparently either I had a misalignment or suspension issue, who knows, but one of the belts shifted and it created a big bump on one of the tires, and it was an issue. But I'll be honest with you, that was on only one of the tires. When I looked at all of them, I said, you know what, they're close to the wear bar, let me just get new ones, and I ended up doing that. The things that I use the least on this vehicle are the things that a lot of people feature, like this silly kick thing where you open the tailgate. I never use it because the timing is always off, and there you go. I ended up buying a full-size wheel from eBay, and I just made sure that I had another Scorpion tire, because if and when I go ahead and get a flat tire, I don't want to stick this thing in it. So I'm being lazy, I have to eventually get that guy out of there, or not, just remove it from there and roll out with this guy, because I don't need the third row. I never use the third row in this thing ever, so I don't mind keeping that in there. And I have a nice little husky liner here that I put engines, transmissions, you name it. I put anything and everything in here, and I literally use it like a truck. Never ever been an issue. So I don't use the kick thing, I just let it ride that way. As for the interior, I have done nothing. I literally put baseball bats back there when I go to the batting cage. I have an air compressor in case I get a flat and I gotta put something together real quick. But honestly, it sits like this. I do nothing, and it's pretty great. The nice thing is, if you are gonna smash some Toto, you gotta plan ahead of time. You gotta get rid of all this stuff. Put the third row up. If you're gonna smash Toto, you do it in the third row. You never do it here. Ask me how I know. The interior is extremely comfortable. I have not had any complaints about the infotainment system, the HVAC system, even though it's like this funky wonky push button stuff that a lot of you warned me about. A lot of you said that you guys replace this all the time if you work with GMs or Cadillacs, but to be honest with you, I really haven't had many issues, if any at all, with any of the stuff on the interior. the truck has been, knock on wood, pretty darn reliable. The only real item that's worn out is the steering wheel. For whatever reason, this stuff comes off super easy. It was already a little worn when I bought it, but it seems to, with the sun in Florida and just me kind of like putting my hand there, it just kind of like, you know, accelerated that wear and tear. Dash is killer. Dash does not have any weird wrinkles or anything because it, you know, it is leather, so you never know. I have literally never used the sunroof. It just sits there. Never ever have used the sunroof. Has that black suede-ish, Alcantara-ish looking thing. No one sits there, it's just me. So yeah, in terms of interior, no issue. Has massaging seats. You can actually go in here and pick, you know, what kind of massage you want, and you have levels of massage. It's pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie, and I use it very often when I go to Lund racing or just long trips in general or anything over an hour. I tend to make sure that the massaging is on, and both seats have massaging, so that's a nice plus. But again, unless you're the camera or the hat, you're not really gonna get much of a massage. But the other thing that I think is underrated on this truck is the audio system. It is fantastic. Not good, it is fantastic. Great bass. The Bose stereo, the factory Bose stuff that this truck has is insanely good, and I listen to a lot of hip-hop, and that seems to be like pretty darn good, and I put it all the way up and it has no issue, no distortion, anything like that.
I don't throw no bottles, I throw shots. All this drip on me, I need a mop. Balenciaga boxes in the stuff.
One of the few issues I've had with this vehicle is with the starting. Now, I thought for the longest that it was a starter, but I was talking to Jake about it, and he goes, honestly, I've seen issues, sorry about the dirt, that these trucks, sorry, I had to clean it. So he said he thinks there's a communication issue between whatever sends a signal to the starter and this, because once in a while, it won't start. So let me see if I want to see if it doesn't start. No, it starts just fine. So what I'm trying to do is make it like not start. It goes like click and then it stops. No. See? That's why I don't think it's a starter, because I'm not going to replace a starter when it does that all the time. So if I can capture that thing where it just like doesn't start, then it takes a couple of more pushes of the button for it to start, I'll try to get it on video. Yeah, fuck you, right? So one of the things I noticed is the transmission shutter is present on this vehicle, but I think it's more because of, look at the shift schedule. Look at the RPMs at very low pedal, almost never go above 2,000, right? Boom, and it just keeps shifting, torque converter lockup, shifting, torque converter lockup. So obviously for fuel mileage reasons, they do that, drivability, whatever. But I think what happens and what I feel is it shifts and then it goes into lockup. And I think if it has a torque converter issue, the lockup, I think exaggerates that issue that people say that is a torque converter, shutter, or something like that. So I totally understand where they're coming from. But to be honest with you, I'm one of those guys that I'm not gonna do anything until this thing literally doesn't drive forward. Like if it has a little transmission shutter, big deal. So does that mean I'm gonna start messing around with the tuning on the truck? No. Like a lot of people, and I understand, they don't want their car to shutter, even if it's like a little bit or whatever. I drive it in such a way where I avoid the shuttering. You know, I just drive it. I haven't had any reason to, because, you know, I've gone to Lund Racing, which is 300 miles away, many times with this current setup. And I'm like, it starts, it goes forward. Yeah, once in a while you feel like a weird transmission thing, but not enough for me to lock it, you know, in a garage somewhere or take it somewhere so that they can charge me $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 so that they can rebuild the transmission. And technically, if I wanted to tune it and unlock the TCM, I can then raise the shift points out of the way, manipulate the torque converter schedule so it's like, you know, not locking early. I guess I can do that, but it just doesn't bother me. I just shut up and drive it. Like I tell people so many times with their cars, is it an issue? Can you get to point A to point B? Oh, if you want to fix it, go ahead, rebuild the transmission. You got a bit of a flare on your 10R80, that 4.5, cool. It's not a tune issue because it didn't do it until you went racing and then it started flaring. So deal with it, or just go ahead and buckle down and get $8,000 and rebuild it and hope everything comes out good. So for this particular situation, it just doesn't bother me. Like, it doesn't bother me at all that it has a little shudder once in a while, and maybe it thuds into a gear like once every 3 weeks. It's just silly, in my opinion, to chase that. So I'm just gonna drive it, shut the fuck up and drive it. Alrighty, all this to say, would I buy it again? Meaning, at the time, I needed a super reliable vehicle that I could use every day and still meet my towing needs, my comfort needs, my long distance travel needs. And I'll be honest with you, absolutely. I understand that there are certain model years that you got to look out for. I understand it has a cylinder on demand or displacement on demand system. I understand that the transmission is not the most desirable 8-speed out there, and they've had tons of torque converter issues. But to be honest with you, I have not had any issues that I think would keep me from buying it again. It's a very reliable vehicle, literally oil changes, tires, and wearables. It's due for a magnetic ride replacement because the shocks went and they're leaking, but I saw the replacements like Bilstein regular shocks with a magnetic ride delete kit is like a couple grand, all 4 shocks and struts, so that's not a problem as opposed to going with factory stuff. But at the end of the day, it met my needs, and I bought it at a time where the depreciation was so good, meaning it depreciated so much, or in such a way that it was actually cheaper than a Denali, than a Yukon Denali with the 6.2 and the 8-speed. That's what I was looking for the whole time. I'm not a 10R80 fan at all, so I definitely wanted to stay away from the 10R80 transmission with all the trouble that they've had, and I've experienced on the Chevy side not so much, but I just did not even want to go there. Also, the newer trucks with the 6.2s have had the issues where the rods are flying out of them. So I got lucky that I chose a year that not only has the 6.2, the 8-speed, cheaper than a Yukon Denali, being an Escalade because they're very common in the Palm Beach area. I'm extremely happy. Now, would the experience of having this Cadillac Escalade, would it help me get another Escalade in the future? Absolutely. I would absolutely love to eventually own the 2650 supercharged 10-speed Escalades that are out there, but only that one. I would not go for the naturally aspirated version, and I would not go for the extra long one. I would go for the shorty because that's all I need. I don't have a family. I'm going to be looking out for in the future. But there you go. If you're looking for some kind of tow pig that isn't ugly, it's nice, you could drive it every day, it cleans up nice, take the wife out to dinner, girlfriend or mistress, and you could still tow, still look good, get massaged, the whole 9 yards, wait for these vehicles to depreciate just right, you can pick yourself up a really nice luxury full-size SUV that can do everything you need it to do. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.